Hello again, guys. I'm back. Today is November the 2nd, 2017. Welcome to my channel, Alien Society. This video is called Valiant Thor Revisited Part 2. Because I did tell you guys that I was going to continue this only because I felt that I owed you guys this video. Considering that, again, when I first started this YouTube channel, I didn't quite know how to do all this camera stuff. As you guys can see, I still don't in a way, but I managed to be able to keep the camera still instead of moving around. So let's get into the story because I know this is why you guys are here. There was a guy who basically told me that I was just showing one side of the man. This man right here, who's of course, his name is Jesse J. Womble. And when I was describing the hairline on the side of the head of the guy that I said is Frank Ernest Stranges, but I'm going on it based on first-hand information, okay, from a person who knew him from over 25 years, and that was his first wife, Bernice. So, this is him right here, Frank Ernest Stranges right here, who he then, of course, everyone thinks that he's some sort of Venusian because he's not telling you that's him. When he had his friends, August Charles Roberts, Gray Barker, James Mosley, you see, basically, you have Gray Barker who was already familiar with knowing how to write a story. Not just write it, but to write it so that people can believe it and say that it's a true story, okay? So basically, that's what Frank did. He created his story in 1960 under the title name My Friend from Beyond Earth. That was just a small pamphlet. It was not really like a huge book or anything. It was just known as simply that, just like a pamphlet and then, of course, a book. But it wasn't a full book until 7 years later, after all the perfecting and you know, try to dive here into different angles and manipulating photographs to conceal the identity of Frank Ernest Stranges. Then the book comes out called Stranger at the Pentagon, of course, a title which was borrowed from the 1954 movie called Stranger from Venus. Now, if you guys check those movies out that I mentioned before, such as The Day the Earth Stood Still, 1951, and Stranger from Venus, 1954, you guys will see there's a lot of similarities between Frank Ernest Strange's story and all those movies. Also, I want you guys to understand that when I first brought my videos to you, I brought step by step to show you basically the inconsistencies within the story. I didn't tell you the information that I've gotten ahead of time. I just told you basically that even if you didn't have first-hand information, okay, that Valiant Thor is a hoax, you can still see that the story itself did not really stand because there's too much inconsistencies within the story itself, okay? Now, I can give you a couple examples, for instance. When he said in 1957, this gentleman came on March 16. Now, I already told you guys why he chose March being the third month, which represents the Sacred Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And the number 7, which is 16, okay? Well, the thing about that, guys, is that if you look at the historical background of the then President Dwight Eisenhower, and supposedly that he met some sort of aliens from outer space, right? It was not 1957. As you guys keep seeing, you will see that it's 1954, not 1957. So you can see that Frank Ernest Stranges wanted you guys to believe it was in 1957. However, it was more believed that he was there because, of course, confirmations, it's clear. He went to Howard Menger's home, the small UFO alien conference, because you know, he wanted to understand this experience that Howard was experiencing, supposedly, right? It was almost like the George Adamski story. And so why not? Why not have people go to his house and try to figure it out, you know, about what's happening there at Highbridge, New Jersey, you know? And not to mention that Frank lived in Irvington, New Jersey. Now, a lot of people doesn't realize that because, again, you know, when you don't search the background of these individuals, okay, that make these what appears to be outlandish claims, you don't know what you might find out, okay, unless you just seek out and see whether things are panning up to each other. It's almost like the Bible in a way, you know, because some people wanted to know whether the character Jesus is a real person. Now, they can see that it is a real person. All they have to do is just pinpoint the locations, you know, and then they can basically tell exactly where he was born, he was raised, and it's clear as day. But in this story, you guys can see, like I told you guys, okay, there you have this guy right here, who they said is Valiant Thor also. But you see, where a lot of people disagree is that they're thinking that this guy is the same of the first guy I just showed you, which is Frank. This is Frank right here. This is not Frank, okay? This is Jesse J. Womble right here. And I told you that August Charles Roberts used an age-old method, which is photoshopping, and he was able to use, unfortunately, head movement parts of photographs from a gentleman by the name of Jesse J. Womble. And that's how you got the creation of Valiant Thor. And yeah, people be like, well, that doesn't look like Frank Ernest Stranges. But then you look at all the Frank Ernest Stranges photographs as a younger man, you can see that this man obviously does not match because of the hairline that goes down. And that's what I was trying to tell you guys. And then this is the other side of his face, and it goes down. This is not an mirror image. Just so you guys know that this is not a mirror image. And because somebody was telling me, yeah, but you're showing just one side of the face and not the other side of the face. And well, I'm showing you this is the right side of the face over here, and this is the left side of the face over here. And you can clearly see that the hairline goes straight down. Not like Frank Ernest Stranges, who of course, like I showed you guys. Give me 1 second as I blow the picture up, guys. Okay. Okay, now you guys can see that the hairline, as I was showing you, it's different. It's not straight down. Okay? And that's why the only reason I was doing this was, again, just to show you guys bits and pieces of the story itself that makes no sense. Okay? That's basically what I was trying to do. I was just showing you guys how there's too many inconsistencies to even consider the story as fact. Even if you didn't speak to his first wife, Bernice, even if you spoke to Julie Stranges, which of course she didn't admit that the story is a hoax, simply because, you know, it's almost like holding on to the story despite knowing that it's a hoax. You would think that she comes clean after he passes, right? But that's not the case. So what do? We just have to look into all the things and do investigations. And that's basically what I did on my own. People don't have to believe, you know, what I brought forth. Because, again, I'm not trying to make you believers. If you don't want to believe that the information that I've gotten is real information and that I didn't make this up, then you guys will realize that I'm telling the truth. And the reason I say that again, guys, is because, like I told you guys, I'm not making anything from this, okay? I'm not seeking anything from this. I'm not promoting any books. As you guys can clearly see, I'm not, you know? And, see, this is the photograph I was talking about, which in my first video before this one, that I mentioned, okay? This is the Howard Menger High Bridge, New Jersey conference. And this was the real conference that basically took place. It had over 150 people. Right here, you didn't have 150 because these were the first people there, including Frank Ernest Stranges, who's sitting right here. Okay? Now, after this, I also have the newspaper clippings that shows exactly what I just said. You know, the year was 1956. And it said 150 people. Now, you guys want to know something interesting? When Howard Menger left his first wife, Rose, you guys should remember that at one point in her life, she did say that she's going to go to the grave, you know, telling the truth about this story, the Howard Menger story, that is, not Valiant Thor. And so, you know, if people found out the truth, she said she had nothing to do with none of that stuff. So, you know, she was later confirming that it was all, you know, hocus pocus, and she just wanted no part of it. So, I mean, what can we do, guys, you know? Here we have people like me who really want to believe. But then when you have individuals that basically create stuff, you know, just to benefit off of something that is very serious for those of us who believe that we're not alone in the universe, okay? Now, I'm not saying that we're the only ones. I'm just saying that, you know, there are people here on planet Earth that seek out to use and abuse this field. And so what do? They create stories so that you and I can believe it, buy their books, go to their lectures, pay some money, and there you go. You fill their pockets up, and then to the point of where they're completely failed, okay, then they ride into the sunset laughing, ha, because for them it'll be like, shame on them for believing, you know? And to this very day, that is exactly what still continues. I would have to say that I respect every single UFO alien organizations that are active today, as they were active in the 1950s, and they continue to present their cases on people who are pretending to have experiences. You know, so I basically respect all those people that go about trying to show evidence of the claims from these people that claim that they either had contacts or they were abducted by aliens. Okay, so I know this is not a great description, I guess, you know, for some of you. And again, I apologize if it doesn't seem that way, but I think that you'd rather hear it from a person like me than hear it from a person who's going to charge you to go to a lecture, and he or she is going to basically go in circles, because that's exactly what's going to happen. And then I've noticed that some mention the Valiant Thor story. Now, you see, that's what I was trying to show you guys, that even though some of those guys or women that know that this story is a hoax, they still promote it as fact. Why? Because it rakes in money. Now, again, it's like a machine. You're feeding it money just to get what you want, right? So with this Valiant Thor story, that's basically what's happening. Now, I want people to hear me clearly. I'm not speaking about the band, you know, the music group band called Valiant Thor, which I'm sure was named after this character created by Frank Ernest Stranges. But I just want people to understand that, you know, this is the reality of life. And all we have to do is seek out the truth. We may get it someday. We may not get it someday. You know, because again, I did tell you guys that it's our government decision, and I guess with the UN backing them up, to give us a disclosure. Now, I'm for it, of course. I'm for disclosure, you know. because that is something that's very important. Another thing I want to mention, guys, is that you know how they were talking about the Project Blue Book and Valiant Thor was a real person, and then the guy goes on his way to put little numbers and tell you the room number that he was in. Let me tell you guys that when you go to the files of Blue Book, which are actually given to us under the Freedom of Information Act, you see no such thing of an event called Valiant Thor. Okay? Now, of course, some people are going to jump into conspiracy where, of course, they say, oh, well, the government is probably hiding it, or this and that, and that's what I'm saying. It's difficult to convince people, okay, that the Valiant Thor is a hoax. It's difficult because people have been believing it for so long, but you see, that's because when Frank made the story, the purpose was to make you believe, okay? That was the whole story. Now, can you guys really tell me that you believe that when he supposedly got on the board, the ship, right, the spaceship, and he had to go to the bathroom, then he tells you how there was no toilet paper, and then one of them told him, you know, through thought process there, right, telepathy, that all he has to do is press some buttons. So, I don't know if he was just saying those things just to, you know, get the crowd into it like he always do. He always gets the crowd, you know, in these lovable ways. And once he reels them in, that's when he can tell his story. You know, because everyone is relaxed after hugging each other or greeting each other, basically. And then there goes the story. All right? So, I'm not saying that I'm the only one that doubt. Like, there are many that are. But when you have first-hand information like me, there is no way that anyone can tell me that the story is a hoax. That it's not a hoax. Okay? And I do say that, yes, if Craig Campobasso would like to respond, that's fine. Because I know that he's the guy who basically is promoting the movie. Because there was a short film, Strange at the Pentagon, and now there's another film directed, of course, by him again. And I want to be certain that I'm willing to, you know, to show anyone. I've already shown you guys throughout my videos all the evidence that stacks up against Frank Ernest Stranges. Okay, now if we're talking about the person, I can show you every single thing that I've gotten on him. Everything. Okay, from the getting caught on a jet plane, which is a private plane, because, of course, it was 200 kilograms of marijuana. His bail, as well as his pilot there, their bail each was $25,000. Okay, I think this happened in the 1970s, early 1970s. And then there was, of course, the selling diplomas for $25 and getting arrested and charged, of course, because he was doing that without any state license. You know, and then there's also the unusual marriage to a 19-year-old at the time. Okay, that was quite unusual. You know, he divorces Bernice after 25 plus years, okay? And then the next year, after he just got a divorce in 1974, okay, he marries a teenager, 19-year-old, Denise Faye Winter. Now, if you guys say that that's normal, then I don't know what to tell you, because that's way out of line, in my opinion, when someone who's that age, I'm 43, I don't picture myself being with a 19-year-old. I mean, really, guys, really? It's just, it doesn't, you know, it's not moral, you know, basically to be married to a teenager, and let alone just be in a relationship with a teenager, you know, so I'm just trying to show y'all that it's the most important thing, of course, is knowing the individuals that make these claims. Now, of course, with Howard Menger, we can say the same thing, okay? And that's why I was trying to put Howard Menger into all this when I gave you guys the series of videos of Valiant Thor, because I was trying to show you that Howard Menger never spoke of anyone by the name of Valiant Thor, ever. Okay, not then, not today, ever. I mean, I know not today because he passed away in 2009. I'm aware of that. But I'm just saying that it was, you know, people was trying to make it seem as though that he confirmed Valiant Thor was one of his visitors, when in fact that was not. Okay? So, you know, I'm just trying to show you guys that this is how people constant deceive people. And today, what do people do? In order to defend this Valiant Thor story, they just say, oh, well, it's a FBI attempt to derail the story, or it's a CIA thing, or it's an NSA thing. And, you know, they're trying to derail the Valiant Thor story because it's a true story. And it's not true, guys. It's not a true story. Now, I wish Bernice herself can just tell you that it's not a true story, and you ain't got no choice but to believe her because she was the first wife for 25 plus years. Okay? And that's why I'm convinced that she's right. Okay? And that's why when I show you guys the photograph, which I'm going to show you again. Let's go to it, guys. I'm going to show you right now. You remember the photograph that I showed you guys a couple months ago? Frank Ernest Stranges at his school, by the what is it? The Bible Seminary, okay, North Central Bible Seminary. All right, here it is, right here. This is a real photograph, guys. Now the thing is that people are saying, well, that does not look like Frank. It is Frank, guys. I am not deceiving you. This is Frank right here. This is Frank Ernest Stranges right here. He matches exactly the description of the man he calls Valiant Thor. Now, I don't understand why people will go out and say, oh, well, that doesn't look like him, because they're trying to say that, let me give you a close-up of the photograph. See, as I get closer, you guys can see the face clearer and clearer. Okay? That's the same face. That's the same man that sat at Howard Menger's home, because his name is Frank Ernest Stranges. Okay? And that's exactly what he was doing. He was there simply because he was interested in Howard Menger's experience, all right? And that's why he was basically there. That was the reason he was there. Now, you see this, that's why I keep showing you guys this photograph, because this is not the same guy that was sitting at Howard Menger's home, which, of course, Valiant Thor. It's not the same guy. Now, then, of course, people are going to say, well, he's a supposed extraterrestrial. He's able to probably shift his face, right? Like change, like transform his facial as a different human, right? Because, of course, that's what people are going to say. It's like they won't let up, regardless of the fact that I have, okay? Now, I've already been contacted by some people that were telling me that, you know, because they were surprised how I was able to get that information. Just like there was someone who gave me a comment. They was wondering how was I able to obtain certain information that they didn't even knew about, you know. And I said, listen, this is not something that I just did simply because, you know, I got some type of pull from somewhere and they gave me the information. No, guys. I did this by searching. You know, you check newspapers.com, okay? And not only that, when you start searching certain things like I did, because, of course, I wanted to know Frank Ernest Strange's background, because he was the one who was promoting this story, okay? And, again, it reminded me of Howard Menger's story and the George Adamski story, considering that I was already familiar with those stories. So it sounded great, but when you got an older man walking around with a photograph of a young man, I wanted to be sure that he didn't play a part in it. But then obviously I realized that the thing that got my attention the most was that Howard Menger never mentioned anyone by the name of Valiant Thor, and I got his books, okay? And that's the thing I don't understand, that people continue to believe, despite the inconsistencies within the story that scream out. People just have to detail and, you know, basically do step-by-step research. And that's how I end up knowing that Frank Ernest Stranges had 3 wives, one which he'd been with for 25 plus years, Bernice Charlotte Rabb, excuse me. The second was Denise Faye Winter, who was 19, like I told you guys. When Frank Ernest Stranges married her, she was 19, he was 47, turning 48, because his birthday was the following day, you know, after their marriage. And then, of course, Julie Stranges happened to be his last wife. Now, I couldn't contact the second wife, but I was able to manage to get in contact with the first wife. Now, I told her that I was no news reporter or any of that stuff. I'm just representing me, myself, you know, and I'm investigating stuff on my own and all this. And that's how it went. And the same way with Julie Stranges. You know, I didn't give her my name. I just basically introduced myself as someone who's seeking background, you know, checks on certain things. And I knew that Julie couldn't answer certain questions because she didn't, obviously she wasn't with him for over 25 years like Bernice was, you know. And Bernice was with Frank during the time he made the book in 1960. And that's where I got all this information from. And the part where I told you he took 7 years, okay, how would I know that information? I didn't make it up, you know, because, of course, it was something that he was working on. So then 7 years later, in 1967, he publishes it under his church company name, okay? He publishes it and gives it the title from the title of the movie called Venus, Stranger from Venus. So he calls it Stranger at the Pentagon, okay? Who's supposedly from Venus, obviously, right, guys? So that's basically what I'm showing you guys. And when I was showing you guys the photographs, I was just showing you how, you know, August Charles Roberts was able to manipulate photographs. Again, you guys can look into photoshopping. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it. It's something that's been used since the 1700s and still used to this very day by professional photographers. You don't have to believe that either, guys. It's your choice. I'm just letting you know that that's exactly what happened. Okay? I'm just giving you what I was told, guys. Basically, step by step, how this all took place. Now, of course, you got people that are making false claims about me, saying that I'm an FBI agent or NSA agent or any of that stuff. And again, like I said, I do not represent any government agency. I'm a normal United States citizen. And that's the thing that I don't understand, is why, when it comes to a person like me making a video about something that, you know, it made a great deal for me to look into, just like many of you out there that look in these, you know, look for these type of stories and want to know whether they're real, right? And that's what I did. I took it upon myself to investigate this whole thing. And the reason it took me over 5 years is simply because I wanted to make sure that when I come to you guys, I come to you guys correct. You know what I'm saying? Not half-stepping where I'm giving you bits and pieces and then I can't tell you the rest. No, 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 no. I'm giving you the full story of every single piece, how I got to the information that I've gotten. And that's why I'm doing these videos. Because I felt that it's important that a lot of people can see how there are those that continue, okay, to use and abuse the alien UFO phenomenon. And that is what is being done today. It was done back then, and it's continuous to be done today. Okay? Now, yes, of course, it's no longer called UFOs. Now it's called unexplained aerial phenomenon. That's the new term now. And, I mean, some people will probably still say UFO. But in my opinion, they can still say that. But it's not going to change that I believe that there are flying saucers made here on this planet. And, you know, it's basically trying to mimic, if you will, the extraterrestrial presence, you know, or again, it could be basically a deal where they were exchanging things and, you know, who knows, guys? Who knows? Who knows? I, like you, am a seeker. The information I've gotten, I believe it to be 100% accurate, considering that the photographs that match the description of the gentleman he calls Valiant Thor. So, again, you guys can choose to believe it or not. It's fine. And, you know, I have every other information that you will want. Okay, like if you need me to show you, okay, why that Frank Ernest Stranges is 5'9", and then he said Valiant Thor 6 feet tall, but it can't be the same guy, right? Because that's what a lot of people are going to say. Well, you see, if you want to use psychology, you can clearly see that if you create a character after yourself, you're going to change a couple descriptions so that people cannot identify you as the culprit, right? So he creates this illusion that the man was 6 feet tall, 185 pounds. Now people will be like, how can that be Frank if Frank is chubby looking? He was even chubby looking at a younger age. Well, yeah, that's true. But you see, a lot of people didn't realize that he did lose weight. And he wasn't always overweight growing up, as I showed you guys before the photograph of him as a young man. Okay? Including the photograph I just showed you of him at his North Central Bible Seminary, which, of course, he doesn't look like no fat guy. He's a overweight, excuse me. You know, right here, as you guys can see, he's not overweight. He's normal weight right here. Okay? Matching the description of the man who's sitting at Howard Menger's home. That's him, Frank Ernest Stranges. Now, you guys can see this picture yourselves from the archives of the North Central Bible Seminary in Minnesota. And you guys can see it wasn't me. I'm not the one that made this picture up. You know, I got it from the archives of the school he mentioned. And that's why I decided to look, because he was talking about the degrees that he got in certain areas. And I was like, okay, well, you know, he got a degree here, he got a degree there. So why not? Why don't we just check and see if these degrees basically match what he was talking about? So, again, I mean, you guys can choose to believe it or not. Now, I want to show you guys right here, briefly. Okay. See, once again, this is the photograph where Jesse J. Womble's right here. That they used his head right here. Okay? And, of course, you can see that the anomaly, there's an anomaly going on right there, because that's not his hair. There's an anomaly going on right there. All right? So, obviously, when they were making that photograph, they were having a little hard time, which, of course, that was August Charles Roberts who did it. I know in the other video I kind of said that it was Frank, but that's not what I meant to say. This is not Frank. Obviously, that's Jesse J. Womble. The head, not the entire body. The body belongs to Frank Ernest Stranges. The head belongs to Jesse J. Womble. Now, you see, that's where the people start saying, well, how can I prove that that is exactly the case? Well, there are other people that confirm that this is the case, because if you go to someone by the name of Annie Stockton, okay, you will realize that she was familiar with the name, if not married to the person, Jesse J. Womble. I'm actually going to take you guys to the photograph right now, okay? right here, this is the photograph that you guys can see. Jesse J. Womble, born June 1, 1921, died January 11th, 1945. So you guys can see this is the same guy. What they did was they used his head. Not the body, just the head. Okay? And if it was the body that was with the head, all I can tell you is, think about it for a second, guys, okay? If they did use the body with the head for that specific picture, think about why is the newspaper somewhat, it's showing like an anomaly down here. Because it's basically telling you that they added that there, okay? So it's possible that the whole body, right here on this specific picture, belongs to Jesse J. Womble. Again, it's up to you guys to believe or not. You don't have to believe. I still got the first-hand knowledge, so it doesn't matter to me whether you guys want to believe this or not. You know, so all I'm going to continue to do is give you guys facts, and you make the decision on your own whether you think that these people are behind, you know, the CIA or NSA to conceal the story of Valiant Thor, which of course is never real, never been real, and I don't understand why people just can't get that part. So also, you guys can check this websites for photoshopping. You guys can see those. Of course, it's easier today to Photoshop than it was back then, you know. But still, it was able to be done either way. What else can I show you guys? If you want to check backgrounds of his family members, Frank Ernest Stranges' family, that is, you go to www.ancestry.com, where, of course, you can search either your own family background or you can check any type of background you like. And that's how I managed to know Frank Ernest Stranges, his father, his mother. Well, not personally, I'm just saying that I was able to, during my investigation into the story, I was able to get that. You know, who's his father, his mother, you know, his sister, brother, etc., etc. And that's how I was able to get that. Now, the newspapers, basically, they show you things about Frank, and you can see that I didn't make up anything that has to do with the cases that I've mentioned in these videos. You guys will see that he really did got into trouble with the law several times after this so-called Valiant Thor story, okay? So I know people are going to be like, well, maybe it was a setup. No, 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 no. It's not that it was a setup. It was that he put himself in these situations where it seems like he was being a con artist, okay? Now, when you got someone selling Doctor of Divinity diplomas to people without a license, that's not the government picking on him now, is it? When you have a man who's flying in a jet plane with 200 kilograms of marijuana, that's not the government setting him up now, is it? Okay? When you have a man who marries a 19-year-old female, the government didn't tell him to marry a 19-year-old female while he's 47 years old. I'm just trying to show you guys, okay, that there's bits and pieces where he makes a whole bunch of claims. Even there was plenty of claims where he said he met the guy from MASH who he bumped into in the airplane. Of course, just like he once said that John Travolta was going to be playing Valiant Thor and all this stuff, and that never happened, of course. So I'm just trying to show you guys how the man was not forthcoming. And, of course, his first wife confirmed bits and pieces that confirms everything I already believed anyways, which was that was one of the reasons that, you know, of their departure, because his belief was completely different from her belief. Now, when you guys meet, because they met in the North Central Bible Seminary, okay, when you guys meet at a place and it's supposed to be a church-going place and it's about God, Yahweh, Jehovah, right? It is your duty to fulfill the mission, if you will. So, I mean, I can understand if he was trying to, add, as they call it, New Age stuff to religion, to Christianity and stuff. But that's something that people don't agree with, okay? There's a lot of Christianity that, people that don't believe that the New Age, as they call it, is of God, Yahweh, or Jehovah of any kind. They just believe that that's of the devil. So, again, it's a hard thing to do, to be living a lie. Okay? Now, if you guys noticed, during all his lectures of Valiant Thor, she was not with him. And the reason for that was because she didn't agree with the story 100%. I mean, she knew that, of course, in bringing the story, it's going to bring in some money, obviously. Because people are going to come to the lectures. They're going to pay Frank for, the lectures. All buying the books in the back, right? So basically, guys, this is all the information I'm giving you that you can find yourselves. Okay? And also, when you want to look for whoever it is you want to look for, you go to 1-800-US-SEARCH. Okay? Now, they probably charge you, what, $40? And basically, you can get the location of anyone, anywhere, anytime. That's basically their model. So, and their model is true. You can basically find anyone, anywhere, at any time. So, that's explains to you guys out there that doubt, that say, how did I get this information, that they were not able to get, you see? But that's because they weren't looking at the right places. When you look in the right places, it's where you get results, okay? And that's what I'm trying to give to you guys. That's basically it, what I'm trying to give to you guys. So if you like this video, you guys hit the like button. And if you're new to my video, this is Alien Society. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe. I subscribe to all those who subscribe to me, because I feel that it's fair, subscribing to everyone. And at the same time, if there's anyone that have any questions, feel free to post it in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Okay? Now, I'm not sure if anyone's fulfilled with every information that I've given you today. If you guys feel that I didn't give you enough that I should have given you before, then feel free to tell me, and perhaps I'll make a video on that as well. It's just, when I feel that I've covered something and I've already gave my all to it, which of course I did to the Valiant Thor story, I felt that I definitely explained it accordingly so that everyone can gain understanding of the story. And that's basically why I decided to show you guys the things that I've shown you throughout the course of months that passed. You guys were able to see Frank Ernest Stranges. Now, I want people also to understand that this thing of mine, it's no personal vendetta, okay? I don't want people thinking that this is something personal that I got against the man who I've never met. I've never met Frank Ernest Stranges, so I can't say that I had anything against him. I never met Howard Menger. I don't have anything against him either. I never met George Adamski. I don't have anything against these men personally, but when it comes to believing in something such as this, which is huge for all of us, believing in extraterrestrial life, and you got people, basically, playing around with us like magicians do, you know what I'm saying? It's more like the hocus pocus entertainment thing. And for me, that's all these people did, was entertain the crowd. You entertain the crowd, you make money. Okay, so that's basically what it is. For me, it was more like, okay, now let me investigate these people, because when you make such claims, let's see what their backgrounds look like. Because you want to be able to know whether they were financially okay or were they financially struggling and decided that, okay, let's create this in order to build, a bank account. And then until they got so much that, like I say, they go ahead and ride into the sunset with all the money they've gotten from me and you of years and years of promoting their books, right? Selling it, promoting their lectures. And people go and pay what they got to pay. That's all, guys. I mean, I'm not the bad person here. I'm not the one deceiving anyone. I'm giving you all the information that I've gotten, and I stand by that information that I've gotten. Now, if I felt that that information was false, then I would mention that that information is false. But I stand by that information that confirms everything that I've already believed, that's Frank Ernest Stranges himself right here. Okay? Now, obviously, he was talking, as you guys can see, he was talking because these people were facing this way. Like, you got her, him, the guy over that way, this person right there, her and him. They were looking towards him who's speaking. All right? Now, obviously, she was kind of busy because she was looking at her papers or whatever. But other than that, that's the only time you basically see Frank Ernest Stranges talking right there. And I guess he was trying to ask Howard Menger, because you can see he's looking that way towards where Howard Menger was sitting. Okay? And I can show you guys the picture again before I end up closing my video, because I'm sure this video is getting to its final destination there. See? And you guys can clearly see it's the same event, because there goes the female there with the gentleman sitting next to her. Then you got this guy, you got this guy. You got the same people basically there. Okay? Now, like I said, these were the first people there of 150 people. So that's why you don't see a whole bunch of people there, because these were the first people there. So, again, guys, if you like this video, hit the like button. If you still disagree with me, regardless of the information I've given you, hey, it's okay. I mean, I can't argue with that. If you feel that I'm the one lying, then it's okay. All I'm doing here is to free people from, this web of basically these individuals that are making claims that are not true. And I will continue to do my own specific investigation into these stories on my own, because I feel that, why go to a lecture when all they thinking about is getting your money? Because that's basically what they're doing. What I'm doing here is just basically telling you the story as I was told, okay? And giving you all the information that I went through without asking anything or charging anything or promoting any book. I'm just telling you what I did to get the information I've gotten. And it's all free right here on YouTube, right? Because that's what I'm doing.